If you're looking for a new way to support the podcast, check out Dubby.gg, an energy supplement company trying to make a difference. There, you can use code SIDEMISSION for 10% off your order. Thank you to Dubby for sponsoring this episode, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome into the newest episode of Side Mission. I, like always, am your host, Rusty Ellis, joined by the boys, Kyle Lynch and Matt Beck. And today, probably going to be a little bit of a shorter episode just because I've got my voice back, thank God, because the last time we recorded it was abysmal and I hated it. Today, we are talking about Foamstars. And as Matt as Matt jokingly called it, PlayStation Splatoon when it first got revealed. Thankfully, we've thankfully found out, Matt, that it is not that. It is not. It is very, very much not like Splatoon at all, outside of maybe a little bit of the combat and a little bit of the movement. But I think that the general consensus that the three of us have come to, and again, I'm willing to let you guys tell me if you think any differently. And Matt, I'm actually going to start with you, so you can unmute. But I think that we all agree this is a quality game. It's a good game, especially for free. It's a good game with some very, very, very odd design choices and a little bit lacking in the content department. So, Matt, let's just get out of the way. The gameplay itself, just to be positive and get off to a positive start, the gameplay itself feels really good. It feels almost like next-gen Splatoon in, again, the movement and the combat.
Fine. I didn't have any issues with that, and I did like the look of the stages. I kind of like this more futuristic, kind of rave style that they were going with not just the stages, but the characters themselves were really well designed as well. Um, I think what is something that sticks out to me the most is just how colorful this game is, and it's got a lot going for as far as the style goes. The other thing that it has really going for is the fact that it was free, so thanks for that. Otherwise, I probably would not have played it if I'm being honest. Um, but there's just it's a very eye-catching game. I really thought that the art style really works for it. The music is also really great as well. It got some very catchy tunes I found myself trying to listen for on YouTube. And it does resonate with you, especially like for me, I have played, Splatoon 1, 2, and 3, and I like this type of 4v4 type of game, where the main objective in Splatoon is to cover the map in the most ink of your team color. But in this game, the foam does not work that way. I think that it definitely separated itself from Splatoon by going in that route, so I do commend them on that because when this game was first announced, everybody, including myself, so yes, I know we were basically calling this PlayStation Splatoon. And when it came out, I played it. It definitely was not that. So I was, very happy about being wrong about that. And they did a really great job with the character designs. The traversal's a lot of fun, especially when it's kind of like a surfboard on the phone. It was very modern, so they definitely did a good job on the design of the game. And that's pretty that's the most positive I can really say at the moment.
Well, I want to point out that I don't think that the real negatives with this game are really in the gameplay or in the modes themselves. And I think, as Kyle, I'll go to you next. I think the real issue is, again, some of the smaller choices that were made that ultimately end up making the bigger negative impact. So, Kyle, for one, there's a couple of really fun modes here. There's one where you basically compete against a team of four. It's 4v4, and you try to get 7 kills, or you have 7 lives, basically, and it's just, split up between the group of your team. And whoever gets 7 kills first, the team that runs out of lives then has a player that's marked as the star player, and when you kill them, you win. But you don't win until you kill that player, which means the other team can come back on you and tie it up and make it really close. Like, the modes are fun, but what was the design choice to make them available at limited times during the day, Kyle? That was a really weird design choice.
Yeah, I think so as well. Especially when, a game like the finals just came out, and we were talking about how their biggest downfall was their lack of game modes. This game came out, and we are like, oh, cool, it's got more than one game mode, and it turns out that you can only play, It actually has multiple game modes, but you can only play two at a time. You can only play the normal one or whichever one is in rotation. And I don't understand these like developers releasing multiplayer games and choosing to have very limited modes when it is completely online. I mean, I guess Foamstars kind of has a single player, but it's really just defense missions, which they are fun. I thought that the defense missions with friends were pretty fun too, because it's co-op and it's not PvP. But I kind of wish it wasn't just us defending against waves coming at us. Like I wish we could kind of go around the city and actually explore and fight enemies and bosses. I think that would have been a little bit more fun. Because when we first saw this game, all of us thought that it was just going to be a Splatoon clone. 'Cause that's what it looked like, just another turf war game. But when we found out that it wasn't, it put it in a little bit of a better light. And now I just kind of feel like it's worse than Splatoon because you try to really hard to set yourself aside from that, and I can respect them for doing their own unique thing. However, there were, like Rusty said, just too many design choices, especially with the way that the game modes are handled. With this being a mainly multiplayer game, it just bogs it down and makes me not want to continue with it.
Yeah, I think that's the big issue. That's the really big issue, Kyle. Is you mentioned it and you nailed it. I thought I'm going to go with an old Alex Stacker trick and say you hit the nail on the head here. It's that unfortunately in an online only game, for some reason you only have two active modes at a time that are multiplayer. When realistically you should have just had them all active. Splatoon, for all the crap that we give Nintendo, and justifiably so for their multiplayer stuff, Splatoon was set up to where you could play just about any mode whenever you wanted. There were different lobbies for different modes. It works out perfectly. You can play whatever you're feeling at that time. It doesn't really matter. For this, if you want to play that rubber ducky mode, it feels like you kind of have to get lucky, because if you log on and it says, hey, this is not available for another hour and a half, well, I guess you're just shit out of luck. And that's a really, really weird design choice. Now, that's not to say that some of the modes aren't a blast. I can't remember what the mode was called. If you can't tell, we lost interest in this game very, very quickly, if you can't tell. But, Kyle, whatever the game mode was, where me, you, and Matt were on a team with a random, two of us were in the arena and two of us were on the outside of it, kind of helping the guys that were in the arena, I thought that mode was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed that mode as well because that one kind of brought it down to a smaller scale and forced you to directly engage with your enemies. Whereas in the other game modes, the maps are pretty big in this, and you can quite literally just stand back and hurl ammo at them and, abilities from, far away, especially when um, you're playing just the regular game mode because it's just team deathmatch essentially. And if you end up losing all your lives and becoming the star player, I mean, you can just run across the map and keep running around the map because it's so big, it's hard for anybody to get to you. But in the small one, like you were saying, in the 2v2 where you have your teammates up above helping, that was a lot of fun because the matches were super quick. And you also, it wasn't as chaotic, and you couldn't hide, you couldn't run. It was like, you start getting shot up, you gotta get in, you gotta go. I really enjoyed that one. I thought that that one was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I think there's redeeming factors, and I think that the rubber ducky mode, that's a fun mode if you've got four teammates that are all communicating. That's one of those where with randoms, as we've kind of seen with Overwatch, it's just really hard to get into a game mode like that, Matt, and really enjoy it, because if you're not able to communicate consistently, it feels like you've just got no shot to win unless everyone is really good at the game. And obviously, I don't think any of the three of us would say that we're really, really good at the game. So for those that want the information, obviously in that mode, you're fighting to take over essentially a payload that happens to be a rubber ducky, and you're escorting them towards the enemy's goal or towards your own spawn, basically. And I believe that's what it is. I believe it's your own spawn is where you're at. Either that or you're escorting them to the enemy spawn. One of the two. I can't really remember. We only got in and played it a couple times, and this is the problem when the game modes are always shuffling. So, but it's fun, but it's one of those that after playing it a couple times, Matt, again, like the cracks kind of show. It's like you said. I'm glad this game was free. I'm not sure how much I would have paid to actually play it. It's a good game for what it is, but it's not a great game by any means.
Kinda see why it was free if you ever looked in the store. My some of these transaction prices, we're talking like $50 for a skin and some emotes and all that, so I guess they have to make their money back somehow. But I think also, remember that first mode that we're talking about? Wasn't it like bath something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that is a mode that if I ever do get back into playing this game, I would love to go back and play that mode more. Um, I only played that rubber ducky mode like one time, and it was just miserable because I just felt like whereas me and Kyle were communicating, we did have that random who we couldn't talk to, and the way that the other team was playing, you would think that they were all in a party together, communicating, and then that just led to this kind of frustration. But it's like that in a lot of multiplayer games, especially I play a lot of Overwatch. So when it comes to the communication aspect, when I'm just playing with randoms, it is very frustrating. And when you're just constantly losing, it's just like I really don't want to go back and play this. So it is just it is just pure aggravating, during moments like that, but at the end of the day, I still did have a lot of fun with this. I can't really say for sure if I'll come back and play this one. So, um but I do hope that in the future it does get more support, it does get more modes, they do work on the rotation things, and I think that this game has so much potential because the gameplay itself is a lot of fun, it's a lot of fun with friends. I would definitely like to have a more, like, explorable hub world like Splatoon has the hub world it's got the shops that you can go to, and it's just got the little things here and there, but this is a new IP, and I definitely think Square Enix wanted to test the waters before they really went all out. So I do hope that this game continues to get the support and does continue to build up a bigger user base. Because I just read online that's apparently on the PlayStation 5 version of this game lost about 52% of players online. But I think that's also probably because Helldivers is out, and I feel like the majority of people are just playing that now.
Yeah, that's another thing about the hub world is you really only get this like clubhouse kind of place. And you're supposed to be able to decorate it, but it feels just so minimal. It's almost like I would have just rather have like an optional training arena that I could go to whenever I want, and just the menus, because it just doesn't, like, I don't know. I guess it'll be cool if they update it like you said, but it's just there's nothing that keeps me here wanting to wait for them to update it. Um, it's just, man, there was a lot of potential, I think, because the game looks good. I think that the graphics are definitely commendable. And the gameplay is fun. It's really just there's not a whole lot to do. And when I saw that we were going to be able to customize, our little hub area, our little like clubhouse, I was like, okay, oh, that'll be fun. And it's very minimal. Like you can't really do much with it. And also, I was usually trying to play with friends, and you can't customize it when you're with your friends. You got to be customizing it when you're on by yourself. This isn't really a game that I think I want to play by myself or ever would. If you are on with friends, you can definitely have fun with this game, I think. But solo, it's just I don't see it happening. I also feel like sometimes we got some sweaty matches. When
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
yeah, I was like, this game is not. It's not one of those kinds of games, and I feel like if you're playing solo, you would just you'd have a bad time unless you're just cracked at this game. But yeah, it had potential, and I feel like it fell flat, unfortunately.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the problem with this game is that there's a lack of modes. There's a lot of weird design choices, and the gameplay itself is fun. But the problem with multiplayer games is that you have to give people a reason to keep coming back. And obviously, Helldivers 2 probably has a lot to do with that because it's a fun game, it's reviewed very well, and that people are having a ton of fun with. It's a multiplayer game. And I'm sure that has something to do with the player base dropping off a little bit. But the thing that we also saw was after about 5 to 10 hours of playing the game, it just gets really, really boring almost. And it's unfortunate because it looks really good, the effects are really good, the sound design is really good, the music's really good. There's a lot of things to like, But unfortunately, it just doesn't really get out of its own way enough. And because of that, it ends up being a very, very okay experience. Now, for free, it's a really good experience. If this had been a $30, $40, $50 game, I would not be very happy at all whatsoever with this game. So, fellas, I think that's a good place to call this shorter episode just because I legitimately have been trying to think of ways to extend it, and I cannot think of anything else to make this episode longer. So that is going to do it for this episode of Side Mission. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at Side Mission Pod. You can follow us on Facebook as well at Side Mission Podcast. For the boys, for Kyle, for Matt, I'm Rusty. Thanks for listening.